Well, good evening, everyone. I'll call this meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. by recognizing the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Municipality of Brighton is located on the Mississauga-Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga. The Council of the Municipality of Brighton respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I will also advise that due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will be held using various formats. Members of council and some municipal staff are present in chambers. Other staff members are joining us via electronic conference technology. The public is invited to join us by viewing this meeting live on the Municipality of Brighton YouTube channel. And I will also note that once we proceed into closed session, the live YouTube stream will end for the duration of tonight's council meeting. We begin with a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Connect, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council approved the December 20th, 2021 council agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? None noted. I have a couple of announcements. Does anyone else have any announcements this evening? So I have two announcements. One is with regard to Councillor Bateman. Councillor Bateman underwent heart surgery today, and I've been told that his surgeon says that the surgery went well. And Mrs. Bateman asks me to inform the community that Mark is now on the road to recovery. On Friday, when I spoke to him on the phone, I told Councillor Bateman that council would support him during his recovery in any way we could. And to that end, at the January meeting, we will extend Councillor Bateman a leave of absence so that he may heal without worrying about what happens to his seat. I've also made the decision, unfortunately, to cancel the New Year's levy for New Year's Day. With case counts on the rise, I felt that providing an event where citizens would come together would be unwise at this time, and that too was heartbreaking. So we look forward to Councillor Bateman coming home and out of the hospital, and hopefully 2022 will be a year of recovery for him and maybe for all of us. We move on to the adoption of the minutes, moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council adopt the December 6, 2021 council meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. We have no statutory public meeting. Sorry, is there another? There's another minutes. Moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council adopt the December 13th, 2021 planning meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc.
Yes, thank you, Your Chair. I have issues with, not issues, just this, issues with 4.3, which is the DM Wills report on secondary plan. To me, it doesn't fulfill what was the requirement of the motion I had put in, but I withdraw it to give it to the planner. The Director of Planning and I have had discussions on it. So I disagree with what it's going to do. It needs a little bit of amendment, and I disagree with 6.3. So that's why I can't vote for the planning meetings. So I would ask for a recorded vote.
So hang on, you said 4.3. I don't see a
4.3, which is delegations.
I see a 4.1 and 4.2.
Wait, I go back to the planning meetings then.
4.1 is Joe Johnson with regard to the road allowance closure. 4.2 is Diana Kay, project manager, DM Wells, for the secondary plan.
I'm sorry, is it 4.1? Where's the delegations just with planning? I have it in front of me. 4.3. 4.3, Diane Keaton project management for Gemma Drake's project, DM Wills Associate Limited presentation on secondary plan project initiative. greenfield areas within the urban settlement boundaries of Brighton.
Okay, so that was 4.2, that was a delegation. And the only thing in the minutes is that we received the delegation. And the other one was, which you moved, by the way. And the-
6.3. Apple Woods, Apple Meadows, phase 3 and phase 4.
The resolution to accept the report and circulate the information about additional planning methods and public notification for statutory public meeting. You disagree with all of that,
Yes,
even though you moved it?
Yep.
Very well.
just let's put it on the table.
Okay, so Councillor LeBlanc has requested a recorded vote with regard to the acceptance of these minutes. I don't believe so. Was there an issue with the minutes?
No, just those
They're
two
recorded
points.
the way
Yes,
you felt they were, should be. Yes,
Are we not supposed to be just voting to accept the minutes, not to
That-
dispute?
that is what the minutes are. That's exactly what this vote is. It's to accept the minutes as presented.
It's not to dispute whether what we
Nope.
agreed with or
No,
not?
it
agreed
is
with?
not.
Okay,
Nope,
thank
I'm
you.
not dis-
You're welcome, Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. This is sometimes a little gray for me, as I was not present at the meeting. My guess is that I should not vote on these, correct?
That is not correct. You are a duly elected member of council and you have a vote when you are at the table.
Okay, okay,
Okay,
just
You-
just
you-
for,
you may vote.
okay, just for clarification, because I thought if you weren't present at a meeting,
No.
that may be for different circumstances.
Under Robert's Rules of Orders, that would be true, but
Right.
because we are governed by the Municipal Act, the Municipal Act gives you full voting privileges when you are around the horseshoe.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Carry on.
Councillor LeBlanc,
no,
Councillor Emily Rowley,
Yes,
Councillor Mary Tadman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Laura Connect,
Yes,
Councillor Ron Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Brian Ostrander.
Yes,
That's carried.
thank you. We have no statutory public meeting this evening. There are no delegations or presentations. Madam Clerk, are you aware of anyone joining us for citizens' comment this evening?
No.
Ms. Polly, thank you. We have no staff reports, which takes us to motions and notices of motion. And the original motion was, notice was moved by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. In Councillor Bateman's absence, Councillor LeBlanc becomes the mover and Councillor Tadman has now seconded this motion. So it is moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Tadman. The council requests staff to bring forth the report outlining the number of streets, roads, and subdivisions that have yet to be assumed, and to also report on how many certificates of credit have expired or are near expiration for the streets, roads, and subdivisions that have yet to be assumed by the municipality. Is there any discussion? I would ask, are we just looking at streets, roads, and subdivisions? Are we looking at infrastructure in those subdivisions? Are we including stormwater ponds? Because it seems to me that we went down this road based on a stormwater facility, and now we're just looking at streets, roads, and subdivisions. Councillor LeBlanc.
there was already a motion for information from staff on the ponds that was posted last year, still has been replied to. This is a motion that Councillor Bateman, in talking with the Director of Planning, basically asked for Ward Street, wanting to know the residents, wanting to know when the sidewalk was going to be completed and certain things were going to be done. And they were told there was a sufficient funds to do it. After the Director of Planning looked at it, the certificate ended up by being stale dated. So it means it's no longer valid. So this rose the concerns to Councillor Bateman to look at all this and to talk with Mr. Walsh, because we have a lot of roads that are sitting here, some of them 8, 10, 12 years, still haven't been assumed. If there is deficiencies in infrastructure, or stuff, why they're not being assumed. If the letters of credit are still valid, we should assume those roads and do the corrections that are required. In looking at one of the drawings on one of the roads, in I think it's Ward Road, this is the storm sewer pipe. The sanitary sewer comes here, goes under, comes back up and comes back around. And there's sufficient letters on that. When I looked at the files and I've done some research on it, there's letters from staff that this is why they're not assuming that street and that subdivision, because eventually it's going to be blockage, and they've had blockages. The same as Beacon Street that hasn't been assumed because there's all kinds of infrastructure problems with the laterals coming across. And again, today there was a sewer back up there because there was gravel in the laterals coming around that should have been removed and caught during inspection. The thing. So if there's sufficient the reason some of these streets like Fox Den, they're old streets. They still haven't been assumed. It says that not assumed. Why haven't they been assumed? And if there's sufficient funds, I think we've waited long enough for the developer and whoever owns them to repair them. So if there's sufficient funds, we should take the task and get them repaired and find out what's there.
Okay, so you're happy with the wording as it stands?
Yes.
Thank you.
If the,
Councillor Anderson.
So is this the purpose of this? Maybe the answer can come before we vote. To find out the liability on these particular roads and streets, and whether what liability and what responsibility do we have if they're not assumed? And you talk about the builders didn't complete the work and the builders didn't do them correctly or something like that. What recourse is there to deal with that before digging into this deeper?
there's, if I can answer, there's sufficient staff reports on why these roads haven't been assumed. And this is why we're asking staff, because some of them are new, some of them are old, and some of them are leaving, is to get everything together in one pool. And before they leave, to get the history on all these things, to make sure all the data and all stuff is brought together. If there's sufficient funds, because there is a holdback, is there sufficient funds to do all the repairs? Because the staff have already know what the repairs are, and that's why the streets have not been assumed. And they're trying to get the developer or the builder to assume to do the repairs. And some of them have been going on for 10, 12 years, and the repairs are still not done. But now with the letter of credits still valid that they got from the bank to assume this. And now we found out that one is invalid. How many more are invalid? But how long do we wait? 15, 20 years?
Just to be, and just so I'll clarify as well, the motion asks for essentially two lists. One, streets, roads, and subdivisions that have not been assumed by the municipality, and two, certificates of credit that have expired or are near expiration for same for streets, roads, and subdivisions. So the request is for a report that details those two things. So really just two lists.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for.
Then after you get that, then you can deal, what do we have to do after the list is
Yeah.
given to council?
There is another shoe to drop, but in
Yeah.
this case, there's just two lists that are being asked for.
Well, it'd be great to have a list, but it wouldn't our responsibility be if there's a problem with the road and it needs to be fixed, that if there's a letter of credit that's no good anymore, for whatever reason, that we wouldn't just go and take care of it and then pass that cost on to whoever that, if that person still has any liability for that road, that because we haven't assumed it.
Let's see.
CAO?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the first step is to determine what the list is. And once we've done that, then we can determine what the next steps are, where the responsibility lies, where the liability lies, where the costs lie, and where the exposure or the risk to the municipality lies. So step number one is let's put together a list, and then we can tackle the repercussions after we've completed the list.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
And it's my understanding that staff is prepared to move forward with this and is expecting this to pass this evening. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything further on the motion? Councilor Rowley?
Thank you. Just kind of reading in between the lines, based on your comments. should this motion be expanded or should we just stick with this and then,
Let's get
as
the
you said,
list.
wait till the shoe drops later?
Let's get the list and then the other shoe can drop. And
Okay.
I would anticipate that the staff report would speak to that other shoe and what their intention is moving forward.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
what my expectation.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. We have two notices of motion, both of which will come forward as motions on at the January 17th meeting. The first will be moved by Councillor Rowley and seconded by Councillor Anderson. Whereas the tornado that destroyed the village of Brighton's town hall and caused widespread devastation in the former village occurred on July 13th, 1973. And whereas Brighton's Memorial Park is now the site of the former town hall, and whereas the bell from the former town hall's bell tower sits on top of the monument that is a flower bed, but was originally a fountain. And whereas 2023 will mark the 50th anniversary of the tornado, now therefore be it resolved that council strikes a task force to commemorate the anniversary of the tornado in Brighton. And further, that council directs staff to develop a terms of reference for the task force to be presented to council no later than the first regular meeting in February. And this will come forward on January 17th, as I mentioned. The second notice will be moved by myself, Mayor Ostrander, seconded by Deputy Mayor Connect. Whereas the pandemic has heightened awareness about mental health concerns in our community, and whereas resources are available through professional and volunteer organizations, and whereas the mayor has discussed the rising concerns of mental health with representatives of the Ontario Provincial Police, Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, Halliburton Kawartha Pine Ridge Public Health Unit, and the local ministerial group. And whereas there is a growing interest to develop an initiative around mental health awareness in the spring of 2022, now therefore be it resolved that the Municipality of Brighton Council supports a mental health initiative in the spring of 2022 in partnership with community organizations. And again, that will come forward on January 17th. We have no unfinished business this evening, no bylaws to consider. We have no reports of advisory committees of council, reports or minutes and council reports. We have a report or minutes of statutory committees, boards and external agency, which is the Lower Trent Conservation Authority. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council received the Lower Trent Board and regular minutes from the November 11th, 2021 meeting. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And we have the DBIA October 14th and November 18th minutes. And it's moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council received the DBIA October 14 and November 18, 2021 meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to just draw your attention in both sets of minutes regarding the waste container advertisement concern. I know there's been some correspondence between the DBIA and some staff members regarding that, and we just wanted to once again highlight that the DBIA is not in favor should this initiative come forward again.
Thank you for that. Is there anything further for members of council? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. We move on to correspondence, direction items, endorsements, communications, and petitions. The first is with regard to the Northumberland County resolution and report regarding GO expansion. It's moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Rowley. The council received the Northumberland County resolution and report regarding the GO expansion business case and economic impact study. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And correspondence from the Alzheimer's Society, moved by Councillor LeBlanc, and seconded by Councillor Rowley, that council support a proclamation of January as Alzheimer's Society Awareness Month. Whereas Alzheimer's disease and related dementias are degenerative brain disorders that affect over 564,000 Canadians. And whereas every 3 seconds, someone in the world develops dementia. And whereas in Canada, 25,000 new cases are diagnosed each year. And whereas Alzheimer's disease and related dementias take their toll on hundreds of thousands of families and caregivers. And whereas early diagnosis of dementia helps people live better with dementia and allows them to make important decisions about their future needs. And whereas dementia is more than just numbers, it's our friends and neighbors, people we see every day in our community. Whereas dementia affects several families in Brighton and the surrounding region. Whereas it's not just their disease, it's our disease too. Whereas building more dementia-friendly communities can be our first step to help reduce the stigma of dementia in Canada. Now therefore be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Brighton hereby proclaims the month of January 2022 as National Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and do urge all citizens of our community to become more aware and educated concerning the far-reaching effects of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. That takes us to our consent agenda. There are 3 items in our consent agenda. If anybody would like to discuss any of those 3 items separately, now would be the time to request that. And I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Connect, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Be it resolved that staff recommendation with respect to items 16.1 to 16.3 be adopted as printed. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. That takes us to question period. Madam Clerk, are you aware of anyone joining us for question period? Ms. Polly? No, thank you. So everyone, that will bring us to our closed session. Once the closed session motion is passed, assuming it is, we will end the live YouTube stream. And so for those joining us via YouTube, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope you are able to gather in limited quantities as it may be, but gather with friends and family over the holiday season. And we look forward to seeing you again in the new year. The motion is moved by Deputy Mayor Connect, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council resolve itself into closed session December 20th, 2021 at 6:53 p.m. pursuant to the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 as amended, subsection 239(2)(b, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and D, labor relations or employee negotiations, personnel matters, and C, a proposed or pending land acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. This is an update. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried.